Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. Thank you so much for watching. This is another recorded conversation with a family caregiver about navigating the 17 different caregiving systems. And today I have Donna with me. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Denise.
Thanks so much for being here and thank you so much for sharing your story. Let's start with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about your caregiving situation.
So if I understand, it was in the past or present, right?
Yes, so you can, yes, yep.
So my father-in-law, uh, my husband and I helped him stay in his own home, which was what he wanted to do through end of life. And that was something we were very passionate about. We felt like it was an honor and a gift that he would give to us. By letting us help him do that. Yeah. So we
Okay.
took care of him for, I think, 5, 6, 7 years. And then as he needed more help, we moved into getting help to come in because we were both working full time, and both of his siblings, we all worked full time. So the siblings were more fearful, like, we can't do this. But my husband and I, we were confident that we could do it. And so we wanted to just follow his dad's wishes and help him stay in his own home through end of life.
Okay, so you actually started to talk about the different systems that you've navigated because you just talked about work, family, you talked
Yes.
about your relationships. So tell us which of the 17 caregiving systems you would say you have the most time navigating.
That I spent the most time navigating.
Yeah.
I would have to say the health, as his needs increased, the healthcare systems, healthcare and providers, agencies, and then also with that family, the family unit, and that takes some care.
That's such a nice way to say that. Yes.
That takes some care. And so yeah, I would say that was as time went on, that was the biggest piece, juggling healthcare appointments, and agency help, finding agencies, having them come in, finding, trying to help staff succeed, but it's not always a good fit. So sometimes you have to say, this isn't working out, thank you for trying, and then you have to find someone else that is a better fit.
So I heard you mention 6: healthcare, provider, family, community. I consider community when you're going to appointments, you're engaged
Yes.
in the community. You're going into a
Yes.
building that's part of the community.
Yes.
And then you had mentioned that you continued working. So I listed work and
Yes.
then medical systems. So actual
Yes.
doctors, etc. Okay, so I'd love to hear an example of a situation you encountered when you had to manage multiple systems at the same time.
Okay. Yes. Well, one thing that stands out is the couple, well, several, but so he had, while we were caring for him and he was using a cane, and he was out and about just in this little town in his community. He was out and about. I was out of town. My husband was on the road, but he had the call for help button, and he fell. He was at the barber shop, and he got a hip fracture. So our beepers are going off and whatever, and but anyway, so then he goes through the surgery and everything. Now we have to deal with discharge planning. So on Friday, I say, is he going to be discharged on the weekend? His doctor said, absolutely not. I said, okay, first thing Monday morning, I'll see you. Saturday morning, I get a call from the nursing home saying he's there. I said, well, it can't be because nobody was there for discharge planning, right? So then they said, well, so I called the hospital and they said, well, he signed his own discharge papers. I said, well, yes, he's his own person, but he was on Friday when I saw him, he was so confused from the anesthetic from the surgery. And then I saw nurses incorrectly writing dementia in his chart. And I said, this man is clear. There is no diagnosis of dementia. You have to quit charting that. And I said, it's confusion from the post-anesthetic confusion. So it's delirium. It's not dementia and it's not depression. It's delirium. And I tell you, in my 30 years of nursing, I had to educate that to the staff over and over and over because they don't get it. So here's this nurse. I said, well, if he's got dementia, why are you letting him sign his discharge papers? Well, that's on you. You're the one who says he's his own person. His chart says he's his own decision maker. Yeah, that's how that went. So now I'm getting through to discharge. I go over to the nursing home. They said, okay, I said, you guys knew you were getting a fresh hip? Well, yeah, I said, well, I need a trapeze on the bed. There's no trapeze. We need a trapeze. And I said, he's very limited in his mobility and he's gonna be. He couldn't get up and walk like most hips because he had a very different surgery. The surgeon said he'd only done 4 of them in his career. So it was very complicated. And so instead of getting up and about in a couple days, he had to lay in that bed for like 30 days. So now we have this 90-year-old who's at risk for pneumonia, who's at risk for skin breakdown, who's at, so I said, did you know that he has to be in bed for this length of time? Yeah. I said, well, we don't have a pressure reduction mattress. We need to get that. I'm sorry. It's Saturday. We can't get any of that. I'll put a request in on Monday. No, you'll do the request now. You'll call the doc at home. You'll get all the orders. We're doing this now. Because I said, we know that skin breakdown begins like several days before it even shows up on the skin. So now I'm navigating the hospital discharge and the nursing home, coordinating that admission. And I said, he's still a little confused from the surgery. He does not have dementia, so get rid of that out of your chart. And you're going to have to make sure he drinks every 2 hours. I said, and there's an incentive spirometer. He needs to aerate his lungs, and we need to do that every 2 hours. Turn, cough, deep breathe. And as I'm talking, the certified nursing assistant holds up her hand right to my face. She said, whoa. If you want all this done, you will have to come in and do it because we don't have staff. So I said, well, then why was this admission accepted by this nursing home? You will get the medical director and the administrator on the phone now. I need to know why this admission was accepted. So my husband and I, we worked full time. We set up the care plan with the staff so that his cares would be done in the evening after I got there from work. We'll do the showers. We'll do that. If you can just manage to feed him, get him a trapeze so he can reposition a little, get that mattress in here. If you can manage to do that during the day and help him to the bathroom, it would be wonderful. Otherwise, I will do his care. So we would go in at 3 in the afternoon and stay there till 11 at night and do his cares. So we manage that. And then, of course, you have the siblings. And they're all excited and they're like, oh, I thought, so I had to calm them down. So that takes a lot of motivation. Do you know what motivational interviewing is, right? Motivational conversation, your oars, your open questions and your reflections, and you're affirming them and calming the situation without judging. Lot. And it was really hard not to judge staff. It was hard. So then my father-in-law was very active in the community. He still wanted that. So he was ahead of some organizations in the community. He was the president. So we coordinated and told the staff, go up and see him. So I walked in one day to do his cares in the afternoon, and asked the president of this organization. He was having a team meeting. He had all these people around his bed. So we were still making sure he was connected with the community. So yeah, hate to go on and on, but that's how that went.
Okay, so, okay. You ended up working a shift. You worked a shift at the nursing home, 7 days a week.
Yes.
Yeah, 7, okay. I mean, I hear a story like this and I'm almost speechless because of could you imagine if you weren't a part of your father-in-law's life? Could you?
I know.
Could you imagine?
I know. And I think about the families out there who don't have the background in healthcare.
Right.
And it was still a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what would I do if I didn't have the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and voice?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm curious, when you share that experience, that particular situation you just talked about, what emotions come up for you?
Oh my gosh, anger.
Yeah.
And compassion for my father-in-law and for the family. Frustration. Judgments. I practice non-judgment every day. And it was so hard not to judge, because you know what? I just think there's no staff, especially post-COVID and during COVID, there is no staff, right? So let's be kind to those who show up.
Yeah.
So on one half of my brain just wanted to slap her. And the other half said, what about the people who show up?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it was helpful that she was completely honest with you so that you could have a plan to manage. It's hard to know. I mean, I honestly, I guess we just want someone to tell us the truth.
Yes.
And what was unfortunate is the facility didn't tell the truth about managing your father-in-law's care prior to admitting him.
Absolutely. And I know for a fact, as many years ago, I worked in long-term care for years. I was even director of nursing. And I know for a fact, those administrators, the directives that we got as administrators and directors of nursing, don't ever turn down an admission.
Oh, yeah.
There's no such thing as, no, you can't come in.
Right.
So I know that's what they were told.
Sure. Yeah. I was an admissions director. So
there you go. You got it. You know that.
Yes. And it was, you had to actually defend a decision not to admit a patient.
Yes.
Yes.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
But still, that was family. And that was, yeah. All those systems.
Yes. It's
all those balls in the air at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what helps you cope when you are in a situation like that, where the systems just are blowing up right in front of you?
So I had to learn, and now when I'm working with other families, we really talk about using your voice.
Yeah.
Advocating.
Yeah.
And don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Be kind to those who do show up.
Yeah.
And so a lot of deep breathing and self-care.
Yeah.
I mean, stop and breathe. I try to reframe. I try to look for the positive in the situation. I try to look at the strengths.
You know what else you did that was really helpful? You were very clear about what you wanted.
Yes.
And that is your nursing experience,
Yes,
which was really helpful, but you knew exactly what your father-in-law needed. So you
yes,
weren't waiting for someone to say, do you want something to help him move in bed? You know,
right,
right? You
right.
knew that's what you wanted. And I suppose that just comes, I think after you've been a family caregiver for many years, you know exactly what you want because you know
Yes,
you carry best. It's just helpful to know going into a conversation, what do I want in this situation? What does
right.
Carrie need? What do I need? And then just stick to that, right? Okay, here's the
Yes,
goal. I'm trying to get these needs met, and that's what I'm working.
yes,
Nothing
yes,
else, just these
right.
needs. Yeah, yeah. And so what's
Yes.
interesting, I wondered, okay, I'm going to take us on a tangent and we'll just go here like for just a minute.
Okay.
I'm just curious, what was it like for you and your husband to work that second shift in the
Oh my gosh. So we worked full-time days, and in the
yeah,
siblings, they worked full-time days. And my husband was amazing because I said, you're going to have to learn how to do caregiving. I need help, you know. And sometimes siblings, I mean, we all have different strengths.
right.
Hands-on caregiving was not the siblings' strength. They had other strengths that they helped us with, thank God. But my husband, I said, you're gonna have to be hands-on. I can't do it alone. I'd go in and do his cares, and we'd have to wait forever for somebody to answer the call bell. I thought, well, Bill, whoops, sorry, I mentioned it. I said to my husband, if we're both there, maybe we won't have to wait. So he was amazing. He learned the basics. He was amazing. He knows how to do a bed bath and how to reposition a post hip, and how to do transfers. And yeah, he was amazing. He was a good student.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And we were tired, but we'd come home after work, and the good news is the facility was 5 minutes from our house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we'd come home, you know, take a deep breath, whatever, and then up to and then, you know, we took him his favorite foods, and because he was stuck in that bed for, yeah, if I remember, like 30 days or something. He couldn't even start rehab until, you know, it was a weird fracture. So yeah. Speaking of systems, so I said to the surgeon, I said, what's the best way to, because he said, this isn't your typical hip. I said, well, you know, what's the best way to turn him so we don't do any damage? He has to lay flat on his back. I said, okay. So I'm thinking about the skin. How are we gonna protect the skin and the lungs so he doesn't get pneumonia laying flat on his back? He said, listen, the surgeon, you have to make a decision. You have to choose between the hip, the lungs, and the skin. That's what I was told. I said, I'm sorry, I choose the whole person, and we're going to figure this out with or without you. So, yeah. So the talk about narcissism and ego, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering when narcissism would come out. Okay. So it came out, it came out with the surgeon. There's, honest to goodness, narcissism was either the 16th or the 17th system I added. And I wasn't quite sure if people would get that, but once I started saying, and narcissism, everybody has a story about either a healthcare professional, typically,
Yeah.
or it's a family member,
Sure.
or it's the caree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so here's my last question to you.
Okay.
So if you had something that helped you after a particularly difficult situation navigating the systems, what would you love to have?
Well, first thing that pops to my mind is a toolbox, self-care tools. And I do have a toolbox. I have a self-care plan. So that's the first thing that pops into my mind. Although I'm listening to your question, I'm like, are you going to give me something that?
Oh no, I don't. I wish I could give you something. We're actually trying to figure out what could we give you. That's why we asked this question.
I see.
You know, what's missing that helps when you are just like, oh my God, this day,
Yeah.
needs
Okay,
something.
so what I try to give to my consumers that I work with, what I try to do is I try to help them build a better boat.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so that is one of my favorite songs that's played a lot. And my self-care plan involves how to build a better boat.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So personal, family, community, right? And I help them hopefully to put tools in their toolbox to help build that boat.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do. And so I try to do it for myself. I mean, some days you think, oh my God, Donna, pull a tool out of your toolbox, quit whining, but
Well, sometimes sometimes the whining is what we need, right? I mean,
yes,
we have so much patience within these
yes,
systems because we want to have a relationship with the systems, right? We don't want
right,
to piss someone off so that
right,
the relationship ends. So we are
yes,
patient,
right,
tried to be direct in our conversation,
yes,
our request.
direct, clear. Don't take
Yeah.
no for an answer when you're
Right.
advocating.
Right. So
Do
we're
not just
right.
let somebody tell you, sorry, it can't be done. My father-in-law loved classical music. Listen to music all day, classical, whatever that is, but he had all these DVDs. And he ended up on oxygen. But anyway, there came a point where I'd say, oh, how come you don't have your DVD player on? And he's not a complainer. So, but we tried to keep dialogue, keep talking. And anyway, the bottom line is he said, well, I can't hear it. And I said, no, since when? You have good hearing. So I take him into the doc. They look at his ears and they go, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but our people that use oxygen, that moisture collects in their ears and it reduces their hearing. Now, talk about anger. I worked geriatrics for a lot of years. I had a lot of people on oxygen. I did not learn that in nursing school. No doc ever educated me. I did not know that. Now I'm just hearing about this. So there's really nothing we could do short of putting tubes in. I said, great. When do we get the tubes in? Like with little kids, put the tubes in. Well, she said, so there's that bed in the exam room, right? And he's sitting at this little guy sitting in a wheelchair. She said, and I said, yeah. I said to my father-in-law, I said, do you want to hear your music? He said, well, I'd like to. Great. Want tubes in your ears? Sounds like that's prudent. Great. When can we do this? So she looks at the exam bed and she says, well, can you get on there? Can you get up there on that exam bed? And he goes, well, no. She said, so we can't do it. I said, excuse me. I said to my father-in-law, I said, you know what? I bet she and I could both help you get up there. So I said, yes, you can get up there because we're going to help you. She looked at me, her jaw dropped, like, what are you doing? I said, we're going to get tubes in his ears. And yes, he can get up there, whether you help me or I bring somebody else and we get him up there. But yes, he can get up on your bed. So she said, well, if you want to. Yeah, we want to. Yeah. Yeah. It was a fight every day. And I kept saying to my husband, why is every day a fight?
Yep. Yeah.
Why? And what do families do who don't have the knowledge and skills that I do? What do those poor people do? Yeah. Hopelessness, frustration, depression. Yeah.
I'll just mention one other thing. I have been thinking a lot about this advice or this insight, or you know what I'm going to call it a judgment that we hear about family caregivers, that we give up our life. And in truth, the systems are so demanding of us that it's impossible to keep a life. So my father started hospice services, and I know what hospice is like. And they just show up. So for instance, today at 11:30, his nurse showed up for the first call, her first visit, but she didn't alert me to that.
Right.
So that's not helpful, but it just so happened my niece was there. So they were able to put me on speakerphone and we were able to do that. And I know what's coming. They're
Yeah.
just going to show up. And it's so
Yeah.
frustrating because how can you be available as a family caregiver when they don't tell you when they're going to show
Right.
up? It's
Right.
just impossible. It's just impossible. Okay.
Or say they're going to show up and then nobody shows up.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm at with
Yeah.
another
Oh
client.
my,
We had
oh
an
my God.
emergency.
Yeah.
I'll be there. I'll be
Oh.
there. I'll be there.
Oh, we went through
Yeah.
that with my mom last summer when she was on hospice. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay. Donna, this was fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing because you shared, you educated, and you connected with us. And I appreciate it so much.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to tell us your story about navigating the 17 caregiving systems. You can go to careyearsacademy.com to schedule your time with me. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.